Geekazine is a proud member of the Tech Podcast Network, found at www.techpodcast.com. If it's tech, then it's here. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, we are here at the Geekazine Weekly Podcast, episode number 185. Yes, we've gone through 185 of these great little podcasts, and we're going to do a lot more. We've got a lot of great stuff for you on this episode, including Samsung, Seagate, iTunes, Apple, and lawsuits. The XXX domains are here, and a whole bunch more. I use that usual scrubby to find all the cool stuff on the interweb, so let's get started, shall we? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Geekazine Weekly Podcast. My name is Jeffrey Powers. You can find me over at www.geekazine.com. www.geekazine.com. You can go for all your cool questions and answers and everything in between here, because that's what we do, is we here at the Geekazine Weekly Podcast cater to you and all your needs. It's simple as that. It really is. I'm not being anything more than and helpful as much as I can. Feel free to email me over at geekazine@gmail.com. Feel free to call me. Got a slight little lag here. Hold on a second. Feel free to call me over at 608-205-4378. Feel free to Skype me at Geekazine. Feel free to come over to my house. I'm not giving you the address, but if you are smart, you know exactly where it is. How you doing? If this is the first time you've come over to the Geekazine Weekly Podcast, thank you very, very much for coming over to the podcast. We do this every single week, recorded on Tuesday for Wednesday consumption, along with bacon, eggs, a couple waffles, and a lot of syrup, and maybe some Jack Daniels. I don't know. Depends on what you do for breakfast, really. So we've got a great show for you. We've got a ton of stuff, and we're going to get into it in a few minutes here. How y'all doing? It's a rainy day in Madison, Wisconsin. Actually, it started in rain and then went to snow and then went to rain. And we're in what, April 19th, April 20th. It's not a big deal. I mean, the snow's already gone. The rain already put it away. But the biggest problem is last fall I found a little crack in the foundation there, and because of that, we had a little bit of water come through. So before the Geekazine Weekly Podcast could be done, I had to lay down some towels and make sure that everything down here in the Geek Studio was dry, so I didn't plug in some stupid little plug and go like that. Don't want me to do that. No. So anyway, I made sure that the Geek Studio is dry. It's just a small little leak, so I mean, a rainstorm like this, it was pretty major for a while, and we had some thunder and lightning and stuff like that. This is the official term for thunder and lightning, and we had a little bit of that, and but everything subsided. Now everything's good. I don't know what's going on outside. It could be raining once again. We'll see what happens. If you see this back wall start to leak, then you know it's raining. So anyway, hey, if you haven't been over to Geekazine.com, you should go over to Geekazine.com. It's over at Geekazine.com, and that's where you go, is Geekazine.com. Geekazine.com is where you go. Did I mention Geekazine.com? Geekazine. Anyway, it's www.geekazine.com. We've got a lot of great stuff there besides the advertisers. I show off the main post here is I'm showing off the Lenovo ThinkCentre M90Z, excuse me, which I did get yesterday. Now, I was hoping to have it all set up and ready to go to actually incorporate it into the podcast to show you the webcam and to show you all the other stuff. But I haven't had a chance to really delve too much into it. I basically plugged it in, got all the Windows 7 features set up, and going from there. My next step is to actually clone the hard drive, take Windows 7 off, and then put on another operating system. Yes, another operating system. Maybe a Linux, maybe some Ubuntu, maybe something else. I don't know. What do you think I should put on for an operating system? What would you like to see on the Lenovo M90Z. Now remember, I only got a couple weeks to play with this before I give it away to you. And of course, once I give it away to you, I'm going to make it as pristine as possible. back to its original configuration, minus a couple things. I think I might just put some Geekazine videos on there so you have some cool stuff to watch. I think that's important there. But anyway, I got to play with it. A lot of cool features on it. It's a one-piece unit, so I was picking it up and moving it all over the house, back and forth, up and down. It's not something I could, you could take. Well, you could take it from place to place, but it's pretty heavy. So you might want to. You might not. It might not be a computer that you'd want to take as like a laptop or something like that. But it's a great powerhouse computer, and if you need something for a mobile device, you get a nice hard case for it. You put it in the hard case, and you could take that anywhere, and you could use that for video editing. I'm thinking, we've got some video stuff coming up in the upcoming months, and I'm thinking that might be the computer that I could load up. There's a couple things that I don't have on it that I'd want to check to see if I could get. If you look at the article, you notice that there's an actual PC card slot, which I found when I opened up the case. It's just a piece that's missing. So I'm going to talk to Lenovo and say, hey, can I get that adapter and put that into the machine? I'd really like to hook up some FireWire into that machine. If I can hook up a FireWire card to that machine, I can then hook up my cameras, and then I can use it for video. And I think that would be pretty cool. So anyway, that's what's happening over there. Speaking of video, last week, it was actually pretty funny. I got done with the show and I uploaded it and everything. And then I got an email from YouTube. Now, YouTube, if you read the news last week, YouTube had this big thing about copyright, and they said if you are in violation of copyright, you'll get a copyright class. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that's kind of cool. And I kind of want to push the envelope just to have to go to class so I can see what this class is about. But at any rate, I did get a small little copyright infringement. They said, don't worry about it. It's, I don't know if it was from the dolphins and the kittens or if it was from the midway point video. But they were all under a Creative Commons license, if I remember correctly. And I checked on both of those. And so, ladies and gentlemen, here's a word of note to you. Before you go setting up a Creative Commons license, you might want to read what the Creative Commons license is about. Because if you start claiming copyright, and I started doing this, and then I realized I was doing this with my podcasts. I would take my podcast, and when the video edition was done, I would then say go up to archive.org and place it in archive.org, which is a great idea. However, by putting it in archive.org, I've instantly, whatever copyright I put on, I instantly negated that. Because in order to put it up on the Internet Archive, you basically say, okay, no copyrights. It's open to everybody. So and don't get me wrong, the Internet Archive is a great place to go. In fact, I'm putting all my past episodes of podcasts up on Internet Archive because it's going to be there forever. 100 years from now, somebody will be able to find the Geekazine Weekly podcast and get all my podcasts if they want to. Even when Geekazine is long since gone, the podcasts will still stay alive. And that's the idea of Internet Archive. So if you don't want something up on Internet, if you want to control your content a little bit better, don't put it up on Internet Archive because it completely negates any type of copyright you have. It becomes completely open source. And if somebody tries to use it, you go, hey, I found it on Internet Archive. It's open source. And then all of a sudden that opens up a whole new can of worms. So word of warning to all of you, if you're publishing video and audio and anything, if you put it up on the Internet Archive, it will become public use. So anyway, we'll move on from there. I'm just, that's the thing. YouTube copyright, got that last week. So they told me not to do anything, and I'm not doing anything, but I am going to watch what videos I put up on here. And of course, there is legal limits. Like I can show a couple seconds of a video and go from there. So we'll see what happens on that. I'll keep you abreast if I get into copyright police area. So, hey, you should check this out. We're going to be talking about this. It's the Kodak's commitment when the flip is flopped. And this is Kodak's answer to over on what happened with Flip. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this is because I want to let you know that I'm a very proud owner of Kodak cameras, video cameras. I use the Kodak Play Touch when I do my videos, my interviews, when I do the 5 tech things. It's not the greatest camera in the world, but it works. And you put in a wireless mic, and all of a sudden you've got a nice little camera to do what you need it to do. So, anyway, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Samsung selling to Seagate. We're going to talk about XXX domains. We're going to talk about iTunes and all the things that Apple's been doing, including that lawsuit with was it? I already forgot. Samsung and their Galaxy. So, but let's first of all pay some homage to some of our sponsors, because if it wasn't for those guys, we would not have a show there. And of course, you can check out all the sponsors. If you go back over to Geekazine, you'll see all the sponsors in one little area on the right side there. And of course, the first sponsor, as you can see, is Citrix. And of course, Citrix GoToMeeting, we're glad to have them back on as a sponsor. Use them all the time for meetings to pull off. Whether I'm in Madison, Wisconsin, whether the clients are somewhere else in Wisconsin next door, they could be down the street, they could be across the city, they could be across the country, they could be on another planet. As long as we all have internet connection and we have either a PC or a Mac or even an iPad, we can get to meet with GoToMeeting. And that's the coolest thing about GoToMeeting, is the ability to share your desktop, to share what people see and what people, so people can understand what you're doing. And that's the most important thing. For this special offer, we're giving you 30 days for free. All you have to do is go over to GoToMeeting.com. You see that little Try It Free Now button. You press on that. They're going to ask you for a code. You enter in the code podcasts. Try it free now over at GoToMeeting.com. Enter the code podcast and you get a 30-day free trial. Even if you used it before, give it another try, because it's a great program and it's a great way to meet with anybody, anywhere. So meet smarter with GoToMeeting.com. It's still active. I don't know if we get any money off of this now, but 25% off by using that code CES25 over at GoDaddy.com. Now, once again, I know some of you are not happy with GoDaddy. In fact, they just put out a report saying that a lot of GoDaddy customers are fleeing GoDaddy for something that I don't know is something that, I don't know. It's here nor there. It was something that he could do legally. It's not an illegal thing. Otherwise, he'd be arrested and in jail by now. So you make the judge, you make the call. But I'm going to tell you something. If you're not a new GoDaddy customer and want to get 25% off shared hosting, domain names, SSL certificates, you're saving some serious cash here by using CES25. So use it and go over to GoDaddy. Use it wisely. Get all your domains, get everything. Of course, you got to be a first-time user to do that, and then enter that code CES25. Of course, it helps us get to CES next year. So check that out over at GoDaddy.com. Of course, if you go over to Stitcher.com/geek, you can get your mobile solution to listen to all the podcasts. Geekazine podcast is on Stitcher.com. It's a great program. I love it. I was listening to it today. All you have to do is pull out your iPhone, pull out your Android phone, pull out your Palm, pull out your whatever phone you have, and open up Stitcher, and you can get your favorite podcast right there. All audio podcasts, no video, but you got it in a list. You can set up your favorites so you can listen. I basically plug it in. I go over to Panera on Tuesdays. I sit down, I plug it in. I turn on Stitcher, and I listen to all my podcasts. The Wall Street Journal podcast, the Day in Tech History, Bagel Tech News, the TechCrunch headlines. What else we got? We got the Onion Radio News. We got Geek News Central. We got Windows Weekly. All my podcasts are over there. Now, if you go over to geekazine.com/geek, you sign up. You can download the file, the mobile app, and you get a chance to win $100. But you got to go through this way. Stitcher.com/geek. My nose is itching. Again, Again. Anyway, Mosey, of course, longtime sponsor. Thank you very much, Mosey. 15% off by using that code GEEK. Geek gets you 15% off. Back up now, back up often, back up offsite. Be safe with Mosey. Back up your pictures, your documents. Prices start at $5.99 per computer per month. But, you use that code GEEK. That's going to get you an additional 15% off that already low price. So you're backing up your pictures, your documents, and many more. If you've got a story to tell with your Mosey account, that why you had to get a Mosey account, please let me know. Geekazine@gmail.com. But in the meantime, use that code GEEK, and that's going to get you 15% off that already low price to back up now, back up often, and back up offsite with Mosey.com. And of course, Snorg Tees, we got some great new T-shirts there. I love I'll love you. That's it. So check that over at Snorg Tees. And then of course, all of our video, it happens over at Wirecast. Go over to telestream.com. Go to Wirecast. Of course, if you go over to Geekazine, you'll see the Wirecast logos to get it for your PC, to get it for your Mac, and start using. Of course, that's it is a $449 piece of software. But I'm going to tell you something. You can switch between a FireWire camera or a PC webcam, or go to your desktop. I think I got some. Yeah, desktop or your laptop, or the second laptop. You've got many different options, and even come up to some really cool logos like the Tech Podcast logo or the Geekazine Weekly Podcast with a background overlay or anything like that. And that's over at Telestream. Check that out. Some great ways if you want to get into producing your own video. One-man studio right here. So anyway, with that said, with that done, and with 16 minutes out of the way, let's get into your news, because that is what you came here for. That and a cup of coffee, right? I think I got some decaf too. Let's get started. We're going to start over on TechCrunch. Samsung has a $1.375 billion deal with Seagate, hard drive operations and sales. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what happened? It's kind of an answer to when Western Digital bought Hitachi about a month or two ago. Samsung didn't want to stay in the hard drive business. Of course, hard drives are starting to show their way away from to solid state drives, to solid state NAND architecture, NAND architecture. So they decided to sell everything to Seagate and work on other things other than hard drives, which is a pretty good deal for them. Pretty good deal for Seagate. I'm a big Seagate fan. I used to be a Western Digital fan, and then things kind of changed. In fact, I'm going to tell you a story. I got a laptop upstairs, actually my old laptop, which I sold to a friend of mine, and it had a Western Digital drive in there, and the Western Digital drive just passed away. So Western Digital, when it was about 1 gig to 50 gigs, was a pretty good drive. Nowadays, not so much. I don't know. It's my personal preference. You might have a better story. Please let me know. 608-205-4378 or geekazine@gmail.com. And but it's just my preference, my choice. I see a lot less problems with Seagate. Seagate's had their own problems. I'll leave it at that. You make the decision. But if there's no problems with this, they should be able to get these two merged together within the next few months, by the end of the year, actually. So if you want to read more on that, go over to TechCrunch.com. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, those pesky XXX domains are now active. They got this article over on Tom's Hardware that, we talked a couple weeks ago about the XXX domains being approved, and now they have been active and live. And another thing we talked about was how they're going to be using these XXX domains. Because I'm going to tell you something. If I had an adult site and I put everything on, example, I have a friend who has a band called Cherry Pie. Now, cherrypie.com is a bad site. Cherrypie.org is Cherry Pie's band site, which a lot of people in Madison know about it. But if you go to cherrypie.com, not good. Now they can get cherrypie.xxx. But the reality is, are they going to go away from cherrypie.com? They're going to go to cherrypie.xxx and have both domains. How do we know that people are going to use the triple X domains and not try and find and register a .com? We don't. It's just a part of life, and that's part of the problems that they were talking about back and forth. There's already been reports of different countries that have blocked the triple X domain, and we can't change that. And that's a reason why a lot of people didn't want the triple X domains, because they could be easily blocked. So anyway, there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of semantics that need to be worked out and gone from there. But definitely, if I had a prime piece of real estate and I was told I have to build a prime piece of real estate over here, I'm not going to let go of this first prime piece of real estate, not by a heartbeat. I might even just kind of redirect it to the .xxx, but I'm still going to have cherrypie.com. I mean, that is a prime. I'm sorry, that is a prime domain right there. So anyway, tomshardware.com for that. All right, Google has set up a new option where you can become a cartographer, which means that you can tell Google where they made mistakes and move things, little pins and stuff like that, re-terraform the land. So if a street disappears or a street comes into play, you can add it and tell Google that, and then it's kind of like Wikipedia. You make the edits, and then an editor looks at it and makes the changes. So pretty cool stuff. You can check that out over at pcmag.com. Sprint has put on about, I think, $1 billion back into Clearwire. They've been talking about this today. They decided to add another $1 billion into Clearwire, of course, that being their WiMAX solution. And there's a lot of people that are wondering if this is a good idea or a bad idea. If they're wondering if Clearwire is actually dragging Sprint down. Of course, stocks rose, that's the grammatically correct term, went up 7 cents when the announcement came out. And, of course, we've got this over on Barron's.com if you want to read a little bit more about this. But the question is, will WiMAX actually stick around? Is this a good idea for Sprint, especially now since AT&T bought T-Mobile, and that's going through, and does Sprint really want to get into putting money into a version of 4G that's not being adopted by everybody? I don't know. What do you think? I mean, the Clearwire cards, when I go out to Vegas, I get a Clearwire 4G card. It does great. I can rent 4G cards. I talked about it before. When I go out to Vegas in May and go back out in June, I'm going to have a 4G card, and I'm really excited about that. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. You can check this out over at Barron's.com. There's a new website out there. I'm going to go over to the link. It's called Bamboom, and this is over on Device.com. It's apparently something. It's apparently a application that lets you watch live TV over the internet. And there's a lot of people that's saying that it's a great thing. They can get their local channels. The new service will give you over-the-air TV for free. But there's a lot of people that are asking, is this legal? Yeah, we've seen these come and go. I can't tell you how many services I've seen in the last 4 or 5 years that have offered free TV, that have offered for you to kind of download, kind of the next level of peer-to-peer type software. But it turned out to be not something that just disappears tomorrow. And the real question is, this is just another one. Does Bamboom got the legal edge or not? They said that they found a legal crack that about having a separate antenna for each subscriber that lets them do that. So that brings up the next question. Will they make money off of doing this? I don't know. Do you have Bamboom? Are you downloading it on your PC right now? Let me know how it goes. Geekazine@gmail.com or 608-205-4378. If you use MySpace, well, you're one of the few or you're a band or something like that. But anyways, MySpace has decided, or I'm sorry, Zynga has decided to shut down Mafia Wars on the MySpace side. Zynga has not shut down completely, or I'm sorry, Mafia Wars is not shut down. It's just getting shut down on MySpace, and eventually it'll get shut down on Facebook. Now, once it really loses popularity, but right now, Mafia Wars is not on the top of the pile for games, and I'm assuming that Zynga saw the numbers and said, you know, we've got it on Facebook. They can get it on the website. Why would they? Why do we need to put it into another area? Have to worry about their code as well as our code, as well as Facebook code. Just let's get rid of it and move on. So they nixed it from MySpace, and so and they're telling everybody that if you are using it on MySpace, go over to the website and use it there. You can still use it on Facebook, but like I said, eventually that will go away too. Once Mafia Wars loses the luster, and it'll eventually do that. I mean, it's already not the top of the list. I think Yoville is on top of the list right now. But it's bound to happen and bound to be shuffled off and then eventually shut down everywhere. But right now on MySpace, if you've been using it over there, you've got to move. You got to move. PCMag.com for that information. Sonos is a device, a mobile device, that it has Android on it, and it's available, and they've got some really cool stuff. Let's start over. If you check over on Mashable.com, they're going to talk about the Sonos S5. I'm sorry, the Sonos. Yeah, well, basically the Sonos. Oh, wow, where did it go? Take 7. All right. Sonos is revealing a thing called the Sonos controller for Android. It's for the mobile device. And it's letting you, they've got it available in the Android market now. The TechCrunch, or I'm sorry, Mashable had a sneak peek of the application, and they said that it's basically something that you can really get all your music on. It brings it all together into one area, so you don't have to worry about where your music is, how your music is, and you can control via one program. That's pretty cool stuff. I don't have a Sonos, of course, so I'm not exactly I don't know how the program works. And it's running off of it's a free update, Sonos System Software 3.4, and it'll add more music. In addition, it'll add iPad and iPhone multitasking, and it's also possible for users to stream anything via the Apple AirPlay. So pretty cool stuff. If you've downloaded it, please let me know how it goes. And give a review. Give me a call at 608-205-4378. Because gosh knows, I don't know what I'm talking about there. Sorry, it's just nose is itching. I had a couple other things going. Anyway, you don't need to know my problems. The bottom line is, check it out if you've got a Sonos. All right, let's move on here to something that I do know a little bit more about, and that's Apple and iTunes. And if you don't know about Apple and iTunes, yeah, living under a rock? Sorry. It's like cats chasing dogs. I love those commercials. Awesome. Anyway, Apple's released iTunes 10.2.2, 0.2.2.2. So if you got it, it's asking me. I plug in my phone. It says, "Hey, do you want to update to 10.2.2? Hey, do you want to update your iPhone to 10.7.3.5.6.734B7369?" And I say no. I don't want that. Anyway, iTunes 10.2.2 contains fixes for iTunes issues where it becomes unresponsive, syncing problems with iPhone, iPad, or iPod. And then a problem with video previews on iTunes stores. So if you have some time, it's a 24.5 megabyte download. Go over and check that out. Of course, PCWorld.com for that information. There is, if you haven't heard, and if you don't use Twitter, then you could probably just kind of phase me out like you probably already have right now. Wake up. What? Oh. Twitter wants to get TweetDeck. Now, if you've never seen what TweetDeck is, it's actually a pretty sweet little program. I use it myself. It's a program where I can create different groups. I can follow somebody in their own column. When I go things like CES or Blog World or anything like that, I create a column for that and I see what everybody's talking about, and so on and so forth. So TweetDeck is really nice because I can have it on my PC, I can have it on a Mac, I can have it on my iPhone or my Android phone. I think they have one for Android, and so it's a really nice program to have. You can do a lot of different things on it. But now Twitter wants it, and they want it badly, badly enough to say, hey, we want 50 million. We want to give you $50 million. I don't know. Evan Williams, who's the CEO over at Twitter, is saying the reason for buying now I'm back up a second here. Twitter acquired Tweety, which is another program. And the reason why they bought it was because they were looking for an app for Twitter, and they weren't finding one. Now that they got Tweety, they want to get TweetDeck because there's different functionalities in both, and they want to put it all together in one. So, $50 million for TweetDeck. Question comes up: do you think that Twitter should buy TweetDeck? Do you think that TweetDeck should say no? We don't want to sell. Let me know. 608-205-4378 or geekazine@gmail.com. If you are a Microsoft Office fan and want to check out the newest version of Microsoft Office 365, which is the cloud-based Office, you can now check it out as they open up the public beta of Office 365. We're getting this information from CNET, so you can go over there and check that out. It's available in 38 countries and 17 languages. So it's not just in America. So if you want to try out Office 365, I might do that on the Lenovo M90Z because I don't have an Office program on there, and I don't want to use the trial of Office 2010. I already have Office 2010. I know how it works. So check it out. And like I said, if you want to do a review, go over to geekazine.com. Let me know, and I'll get you the keys to the castle, and we'll go from there. All right. Let's talk for a minute about the Samsung-Apple patent showdown. Basically, Apple has said, hey, there are some patents that Samsung, the Galaxy Tab, the Galaxy S, have, the Galaxy line, whatever you want to call it, have been using that might infringe on our patents. Too close to be coincidence, as they say. Samsung is supposed to respond to the activity. They have, and I think they have a list of all the patents here on Geekazine, which is why I had this link up here. So you can check out this article, but it does bring up the question: do patents get a little bit too specific nowadays? I know that there was just another news article that Microsoft wanted to get clarification on older patents. And I think it's on enforcing them. I didn't get to read too much of that article, and I think that came out the day before yesterday. So, but Apple's got a lot of patents, and it really begs the question: can another phone come in? Can another smartphone come in and actually have a functionality without Apple coming by and saying, "No, that's our patent"? That's little monopolistic practice right there, wouldn't you say? I don't know. Anyway, if we want to read more about it, go over to gigaom.com. You can check that out. All right, over at Device, they talk about 9 renewable energy solutions that can fit in your pocket, and I have one of them right over there, and I was going to grab it. I forgot to grab it before I did that. Maybe I'll do that during the break. There's different ways that you can charge devices, including, and I'll show you what I got over during the break. Of course, they've got little things you can wear on your wrist, little wind generators and stuff like that. I remember last year at CES we interviewed for the Yogen, which was a device that you pulled on a string and that created energy that you could then charge. There was a kinetic energy device which they have on here, which we talked about at this year's CES, and a whole bunch more. So check that out over at device.com. And then finally, Domo Nation. Domo versus Minions. Friend of mine, Terrence is the man. He's on Twitter, and he found this in Upper Illinois at the First Oasis, and it's basically a whole bunch of domos and a whole bunch of the minions from the movie Despicable Me, and it looks like they're fighting for supremacy, the ultimate showdown of ultimate destiny, or whatever you want to call it. So check that out. It's over on methodshop.com. Guess who wrote that article? I don't know. Kind of weird. Anyway, in the meantime, we're not going to have any showdowns with any domos or any minions, but we will have a break here. We're going to show you a video. I found this over on the Internet Archive, and I got to cue it up for the 18-minute mark, 18:15 if I remember correctly. It is Sergey Brin. Is it Sergey or Sergey? I don't know. Anyway, they're going to be talking to Sergey Brin about a brand new search engine called Google. So, and that's in the break. In the meantime, we'll be right back on the Geekazine Weekly Podcast.
A billion web pages out there, millions of websites out there on the internet. It's no wonder the most common activity on the web is still searching, trying to find the information you're looking for. There really hadn't been very much new in the search engine field for years until something called Google came along. If you live here in the Silicon Valley, everybody knows about Google, but elsewhere around the country, some people have never heard of it. So we're going to talk to the man right now, Sergey Brin, who is one of the co-founders and the president of Google. And this is, I guess, the typical Silicon Valley startup story. In your dorm at Stanford is how this all happened, is that right?
I guess that's true. We didn't really plan it that way. But my co-founder, Larry Page, and myself, Sergey, we worked on Google during our PhD graduate work at Stanford in the computer science department. And we initially started just looking at what can you do with web data. But we quickly found that we could use data mining to create a much more powerful search engine than the ones that existed at the time. And we continued to work on it until eventually it outgrew a research project, and we started out as a company.
Right. Now, I know it's a difficult thing to explain, but I mean, for people who have used Google, I mean, it clearly does something better than we've ever seen before. Can you explain in simple terms why this seems to work so well?
Sure. A traditional search engine will take your search terms and you say, oh, what pages have those search terms on them? Maybe, how many times they occur and things like that. Google goes way beyond that. Google will say, what do other web pages say about this page? What do the other web pages say about this page in terms of how well it explains this concept?
So it's just not a keyword search.
That's right. It goes well beyond keywords. It'll also look at, things in hypertext like headings and things like that. And of course, the links are very important as well. So taking all this added information makes Google come up with much more relevant search results than the traditional search engines.
Now, the amazing thing to me, though, is not only how good it is, but how fast it is. I mean, you guys even clock it. I mean, I did a search a couple days ago, complicated thing, 0.03 of a second, and a thing popped up. I mean, it seems inconceivable you can do all that quickly.
Well, there are a couple of reasons. One is that we care, and we actually measure these things very accurately, so we work very hard. And the second reason is that we have 6,000 computers working on your query. We're one of the largest installations of, largest clusters of computers in the world. And having all of those computers work for you means that we can do these things quickly over a huge data set.
Yeah, it seems to me there's a fundamental problem in search when people started designing sites to be searched, right? So you sort of snuck in words and you did white text and things like that just so you'd end up high on a search list. That sort of defeated the entire purpose of the traditional search engine in the first place. How do you overcome that problem?
Well, that's called spam in the search world, much like your email spam, except this is search spam. And what Google does this differently, we don't try to say, oh, these are spammers, we're going to blacklist them. Instead, that our ranking techniques are very well principled, and we craft them in such a way that you can't just, arbitrarily manipulate, add words to your page, and come up really high.
So there's a sort of evaluation levels. You don't just fall for any, just because the word shows up 100 times on a page.
That's right. In fact, we even have, mathematical proofs as to how you cannot possibly manipulate your page more than a certain amount.
Now, people ask, what's the business here? I mean, it's a great service. It seems to be free. I don't see any ads on there. How do you turn this into money?
Well, there are a lot of people asking this. There are two businesses there. And one, a lot of Google users don't even realize, but Google has ads on about 15% of our searches. There are ads in blue boxes that show up. They're clearly marked as such. And those turn out to work very well for advertisers. We make sure they're text-based, and they're descriptive, and they're relevant to your search. So, you know, you might search for, Ford Explorer, and you'll get, car-related ads. You might search for golf balls, and you'll get things to buy golf balls.
So you are selling ads, and it'll show up on the search results page.
That's right. But they're clearly differentiated from search results.
Right.
At the same time, though, they're very targeted.
Okay.
And,
now, go ahead.
Yeah, and our advertisers really like the performance because people actually use those ads. They like them. They buy the products.
Okay, one last quick question now. Yahoo's now gone to Google. Have they given up completely this sort of people search approach and just gone to the automated system you guys do?
Well, no, that's certainly not the case. So you're touching on our second business, which is licensing.
Right.
We license our search to Yahoo, Netscape, and close to 100 other companies in 20 different countries. And no, Yahoo still uses their directory. They search that. Now, if they don't find enough results or enough relevant enough results,
then they back up to you.
Then they go to Google.
Got it. All right, it's google.com.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back. Welcome back to the show. I'm going to turn these down a second, so we don't get blasted by some sound here. Anyway, welcome back to the show. If you watched the video version, you saw a thing called Net Cafe. It's over on the Internet Archive. And they did an interview with Sergey Brin. They also had former San Francisco 49er quarterback Steve Young and a startup that he was involved in, and a couple other things. A lot of cool stuff over on the Internet Archive. And so I show you that from time to time. I saw this video today, and I said, you know, with everything that happens with Google, think about it. 10 years ago, Google was just a search engine with advertising, AdSense. They didn't call. I don't think they called it AdSense at the time. So 10 years, 11 years later, wow, where are we with Google? Isn't that crazy? It's crazy. Anyway, I wanted to show you this. This is the renewable energy device I have. It's called a Kiwi. Let me switch cameras here because I think this is going to show up better. It's called the Kiwi, and basically it's a foldable, collapsible solar panel that charges a device. I got the USB charge plug over here, and I can plug it in and I can charge it there. It's also got a light, and I believe there were two different types of lights on this, and I don't have it charged because it's been sitting out in the basement. The best part is, and you won't be able to see this, is it's got a magnet to it, so I can kind of set it on something metal, and it just hangs there, which is pretty cool because then I can have it on a magnetic area, and I can have it on a window to do the charging, and then I can use my phone for the charging. It doesn't do a full charge. That's why I don't normally use it, but it would be great in a pinch to get some extra signal. So anyway, you can check out all those renewable energies, like I said, over on device.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get back into the show. Let's get you some more news and go from there. Of course, we know that Flip had decided, Cisco decided that, no, we don't want to do flip cameras anymore, so we're disbanding. We're done. We're firing everybody, and we're just closing up shop, which is really sad because, like I said last week, they could have sold it to somebody like Kodak, somebody like Sony. And so Kodak came back, and they said, you know, and I'll show you a little bit of this. Kodak basically said, "Hey, we're going to still commit to our Kodak cameras for you." So, and this isn't playing that well, so we'll just switch from there. Anyway, it's a great video, great watch. If you want to see what Kodak cameras really do, why I prefer Kodak cameras for the video that I do, just go over here. It's over at pluggedin.kodak.com. Of course, you can go to the show notes. You subscribe to the show notes. You go in. You'll see the link. Excuse me. You'll see the link, and you can get from there. All right. If we go over to Mashable.com, there's an article about marketers. If you're in the business of marketing, you might want to check this out. They're predicting that marketers are planning to increase on their social media spend. So basically, they've got a poll that was given to a group of ad agency executives and marketers in firms like Bank of America, Colgate, Palmolive, Mini USA. They said that they would take about 11.9% of their overall budget this year for TV, which went down from 13% last year. And so they're going to be pushing it more towards social media. Now, I gave it a try this year. I went over to Facebook and I actually have Geekazine in an ad to push some more people over to geekazine.com. So I'm giving it a small try. So let me know if you see it in Facebook for Geekazine. Let me know by phoning 608-205-4378 or geekazine@gmail.com. If you want to read more about it, if you're a marketer, you should read more about this. Go over to Mashable.com for that. There's a series, and I've talked about this before. You have websites, and then you kind of, okay, I'm done with this website, so you kind of let it go. And there's been websites that I kind of let go and forget about. And then I revisit every now and then. I know Dorkazine, I haven't really been too much up on it because I've been pretty busy with a whole bunch of other stuff, including Geekazine properties. But when you got a website that is like that and sits there and doesn't get updated, then people can come in and they can start hacking it. Forums were big because all of a sudden you got all these links from Russian spammers and stuff like that, and those can be very harmful. So what you end up doing is you either clean up the website or you shut it down. Well, there's apparently, and this is over on Government Computer News, they found a whole bunch of education websites that they found to have malware on them, to have bad links on them, and they said you might want to shut it down. 4 months later, they revisited those sites, and they found 68 hijacked domains in sites run by things like the University of California, Berkeley, Harvard, Purdue, Oklahoma State. These are not just regular run-of-the-mill websites. These are university websites. So pretty interesting stuff here. They'll be hacked in. They'll be redirected to malware, and they'll be if you do a search on them, they'll still be shown as hijacked sites. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've got a website out there, I don't care if it's a blog or a website or a video site or whatever, go and check on it. If you don't use it anymore, turn it off. Just shut it down, close it up, take all the files off, and save some money too. I mean, if you've got a domain, if you've got some shared hosting, you're not using it anymore, talk to a representative on the phone saying, "Hey, I'm not up on the website thing. Can I get my partial money back?" And they might say yes. You never know. But don't just keep it up because you don't want to deal with it. More websites that we can take down that aren't being updated, the more or the less malware that's out there. That's the bottom line. You want to read more on this, go over to gcn.com, Government Computer News, gcn.com. All right, let's talk a little bit about Match.com. Speaking of .coms, Match.com had of course, it's a dating site. They had an instance where a woman was sexually assaulted. She's ending up suing Match.com. And because of this, the person that sexually assaulted her was apparently a sex offender. So what they decided to do is they started to do some intensive screening for sex offenders. There were a lot of complaints to ConsumerAffairs.com on their marketing and auto renewal policies, that they weren't screening their people that much. And once you're in, you're in, because all they were trying to do was get money from you. So, last year I did an article called "Does this Match.com girl look like she's of age?" Because she looked 13, and to this day I continue to get hits from that article, and I continue to get responses from that article. The Match.com article has been pulled since then. But there were a lot of them. You go up to them at the time, Facebook and MySpace, and you would see somebody like they're looking at a webcam, like they're typing away, going, "Ha ha ha! I'm smiling, I'm happy." And of course, if you said in the profile that you're a guy looking for girls, you would see on Match.com ad, you would see girls doing this. And of course, if you were a girl looking for guys, you'd see guys doing it. But and it was just questionable. It's like, do these people look like they're of age? And is this a good or a bad thing? So anyway, that's the article that I have over at Geekazine. You can check that out in the archives. But in the meantime, Match.com is going to be a lot more aggressive. So if you do have any discrepancies, if you're a registered sex offender, you might want to get off Match.com or anything like that. We don't endorse that. Come on, let's make this a safe thing. I know I could say it all day long, but just watch out there, man. Just watch out. That's the important thing. So, consumeraffairs.com is where we linked to. Let's move back over to Giga-Om. Giga-Om. I play a game called We Rule. It's on my iPhone. And it's actually pretty simple. You load up the game. It's absolutely free. You load it up, and then you place down some farms, and then you grow some plants, and then you get more money, and then you put down buildings. There's a little part of We Rule that lets you buy stuff, and then there's another part that lets you get stuff for what they call it, mojo. And if you don't have any mojo, every time you level up, you get some mojo. But if you need more mojo, you could buy it. And the prices for that mojo it was expensive. I mean, for $10, I'd get like 75 mojo, and that would mean that I could buy one thing. I don't know if I did partake a couple times to pay for some cool stuff. They started giving away gifts, and you would increase the gift's value by putting mojo to it, and it was 2 mojo. So I bought one to see what I could actually come up with. So and since I've been using the program over on NG Moco for about a year now, I didn't feel too bad about it. But apparently Apple is not really happy about these games that start doing that. In fact, I just downloaded the Atari game. I don't know if you saw this, but Atari had their games. You could get all the Atari 2600 and stuff and games like that, all the arcade games. You downloaded the app, which was free. They gave you one game, and then if you wanted Centipede or Donkey Kong or anything like that, you would pay $14.99. You get the whole thing. So it's a one-time fee. I could understand that. But why couldn't they do that at the beginning? They just say, Atari, all the games, $14.99, buy it now. Instead of making you download the app and then buying it as you go. I mean, it's $15. I'd buy the game. I'd buy the app with all the games. I'm wondering if some people are thinking that it's going to kind of circumvent something, or maybe just the whole idea. You got the app on your phone, you might as well pay for something. I don't know. But a lot of these games are now getting a little bit more aggressive with their buying. It still goes through Apple, so it's still all on the up and up. But it's kind of deceptive in the same factor, because I can't play a game without spending money. And then next thing you know, after about 6 months, if I add all the times I did buy Mojo, which is about 5 or 6 times, that's 60. I paid $60 for that application to be entertained. I think that $60 for the last year of being entertained was worth it. So, Apple's tweaked its App Store. This is over, like I said, this is over on Giga-Om. They are looking into and banning applications that use the pay per install. Something like Tapjoy, which they had there, and they're showing the game. What's this game called? It's something with it's basically a farm where you can get level up, and of course you get the whatever, the Geo or something like that. You have to pay for something, pay for a dog, pay for a sheep, and stuff like that. So they're saying they're of course developers trying to manipulate and cheat the user reviews or chart ranking with fake paid reviews or other inappropriate methods, and then they'd be removed from the iOS developer program. That's one of the things that they're doing, the pay per install. And in the license agreement, that's where I was going with that. Just reading a little bit more on this. But bottom line is that, some of your programs might become illegal because Apple has changed up their App Store information. And of course, they're changing their App Store rankings. They're trying to find all those apps that decide, hey, well, we're going to try and cheat the system. So check it out. Be very careful on this, because that's bad. It really is. It really is. So anyway, for the last 20 minutes, you haven't seen this in the background. The computer has been really acting up, which is why I'm a little bit stumbling on things, because I'm trying to open it up from here. I had a question of the week, but I can't seem to get it going there. Oh, the question of the week was, do you still use Match.com? So, all right. I'm gonna, well, it looks like I can't get to the other one, so let's get to the last one here. Let's get you on your way. I think we got enough news. If you got any questions, of course, geekazine@gmail.com, 608-205-4378 is the phone number. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how would you like to work in a sandcrawler? It's not really a sandcrawler, but it looks a lot like one. If you go over to device.com, you can check this out. They took a sandcrawler. You can see the sandcrawler below. And this is a building in one of the offices in Australia, I believe it is. Or, I'm sorry, Singapore. And they're comparing it close to a sandcrawler. Now, whether it moves or not, that's a different story. I highly doubt it does move. But if it does move, that would be even cooler. And if little Jawas would come out and go, that would be even cooler. Just saying. Anyway, in the meantime, I don't have any Jawas to try and get some droids. I'd love to have a couple droids. That'd be cool. It'd save me a lot of time and effort. If you got any droids that you want to give me, feel free to email me, geekazine@gmail.com or 608-205-4378. Sorry about that last part. I'm going to try and figure out what's going on here. But anyway, that's it for the Geekazine Weekly Podcast. Thanks a lot for watching. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot for letting me mumble in front of you, beside you, and all around you. Of course, the Geekazine Weekly Podcast is on a Creative. Let's start over. The Geekazine Weekly Podcast is on a Creative Commons no derivative license, which means you can give this to your friends, you can give this to your friends' friends, but once you start charging, hey, I need my cut. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching. You can find me over on Facebook. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Plurk. You can find me anywhere. We've got a whole bunch of other shows. Go over to geekazine.com and check them out. For the Geekazine Weekly Podcast, thanks a lot once again for watching. My name is Jeffrey Powers. Until next week, when I have a little bit more organization, and maybe we'll have that M90Z down here helping with the show. We will see you next time. Take care.